All right. So welcome everybody. Happy Thursday. Tonight's class, for better or for worse, is on a pose that we do so often that I guarantee you have lost reference for how important it is. No, but close. Not Shavasana, no. Oh, Tadasana, okay. I was gonna say Shavasana, that's cute. Downward dog, yes. Guaranteed that you've done it so often that you have forgotten why it's important, because it's just become one of those poses that you do and that you move on from, right? And that's our challenge, is we rarely do downward facing dog as downward facing dog. We do downward facing dog as a way to get from the floor into a standing pose, or to get from a standing pose down to the floor. We go through downward facing dog. So because we do it so often, we also get lazy with it, right? We cease to understand what's really happening in it, and we cease to really engage while we're there. And that's really what I've been talking about this week, is this idea of the things that we do over and over and over again, that we stop paying attention to them. We stop actually seeing the value of them because they've become so routine. So to take something that is very routine, that you usually just, your mind skates past, or your body sort of skates through and you don't really pay attention to, and to start to focus on it as though it is the goal, right? That's really the essence of this class format, is to take something that normally you might think of as being just a passing experience and to really absorb it as what it is, right? This is what it means to be aware. This is what it means to be awake. This is what it means to be present. And it doesn't matter if the thing is of interest to you or not. It doesn't matter if the moment is one that is of interest to you or not. Is, can you be absorbed in it, right? And when we're very good at that, then we call that enlightenment. We call it samadhi, right? That absorption. So downward facing dog is the pose of the night. And I suppose, since Mark pressured me by putting the straps out, is that we may in fact use a strap. So if you want to have something that acts like a strap, then you can have that. So come to a comfortable seat. Yeah.
Just tell us, the literal translation of the Sanskrit Adho Mukha.
Adho Mukha Svanasana.
Svanasana.
Literally downward facing dog.
Literally means that?
Literally means downward facing dog.
There was one of those wings like butterflies.
Nope. Adho Mukha Svanasana.
Really?
Yep. Downward facing.
They had dogs there.
Yes. They did have dogs. Just similar to upward facing dog is Urdhva Svanasana. So it's Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. Upward. Yep. So the Adho is down, Urdhva is up. Anyway, there's your Sanskrit lesson. So comfortable seat if you're not there already. Yeah, it is not one of those names that is a trick. With the eyes closed for a moment, just come back to your breath. And coming back to your breath means actively letting your attention let go of whatever thoughts and feelings and ideas have been gripping them all day. It doesn't mean that they go away, but it means that you no longer are putting your attention there, but you feel the wideness, the bigness, where all of that exists, but it exists within this big, spacious place. So the breath is like that energy that runs in between the thoughts. It's the energy that runs in between the desires, the conversations, the moments. The action and the inaction, it runs between that, and it holds all of that. So can you come back to the feeling of the breath as being limitless? And as the breath becomes limitless, the mind follows. The breath is perhaps the most mundane thing in our existence. When we pay attention to it, it opens the door to be able to feel the real essence of what we are. Not just a body, not just a mind. It's constantly doing. So feel your inhale. Feel your exhale. Can you feel the space within that breath is happening? The breath flows in from where? The breath flows out into what? To feel for a moment like even the outer edges of your skin begin to get soft or dissolve. So you are breathing not just through the lungs, but you're breathing through the entire skin. Just allow for that sensation that there's the expansion that can be felt through the entire body. Be absorbed in something that is very routine. Absorption is absorption. It doesn't matter if the thing that you're absorbed in seems interesting or boring, mundane or incredible. We practice to become absorbed. Even if the mind is still running, see it running as though it's running in this expansive, infinite space. So it's fine that it runs because you're aware of the space. One more full deep breath. As you exhale, relax whatever you think is coming next. Relax into the moment that you're in. And then bring the hands together in front of the heart center, palm to palm. And we'll open sound of Om, deep breath. Let the eyes float open. Nice, you guys. You can release your hands, please. And then go ahead and find your way onto your backs. Onto your backs. Bring a block with you if you have one. Good. If you don't have a block, a bolster or something else will work too. So come into a supported bridge pose. So on your back, bend your knees, plant the feet, and then lift the hips up and place the block underneath the sacrum. Good. Whatever height you'd like is fine. But remember, if you haven't been moving a lot today, trying to force your back up onto that highest setting into the back bend is probably not going to feel great. Good. And let your weight relax onto the block. The first step, right, is let the lower back relax onto the block. Let your weight settle through your pelvis. Let your weight settle into your heels. Good. If you think about the shape of downward facing dog, right, it's like a triangular shape where your hips are the highest point. And so the place where we become the most stuck in downward facing dog, whether it feels like we're getting stuck through the legs or we're getting stuck through the shoulders, is the pinnacle point is your lower back. So if the lower back is restricted, it is going to restrict the stretch that happens in downward facing dog in both directions. And that's when we have that feeling of, oh, my heels can't reach the floor and I really feel this in my hamstrings or my calves. Or my shoulders are starting to hunch and round and I can't get my shoulder blades onto my back. If you think about that, that pinnacle of the pose is the lower spine. So the place to begin to open for downward facing dog to feel like it's a really spacious place is the lower back. So drop your weight into your lower spine. Feel your groins rolling down towards the floor. So it might feel like you're tilting your tailbone slightly forward towards your heels. Good. So you want that space where the thighs meet the pelvis to get really soft. Excellent. And then feel here where you can let the arms go out maybe into cactus arms, the elbows bent, arms wide, let the hands drop to the floor. Good. So again, while you're in this back bended position, feeling the palms, the backs of the hands, sorry, not the palms, backs of the palms pressing into the floor. And actually do give a little press there so that you can feel as you push down through your forearms where the upper shoulders and chest engage. Good. And even if it doesn't feel like a lot of engagement, just pushing down gives you a little bit more stretch through the front of the armpits, which is also important for downward facing dog. If your chest is already tight, it's going to restrict how open your back is in that position. So it's not just the back that needs to be stretched, but it's the chest, front of the shoulders as well. Good. Take one more breath, pressing down into the backs of the hands, feeling a subtle lift through your chest, through your collarbones, through your sternum. Good. And then release the hands back down alongside you. Draw the right knee in towards your chest. You're still on the block, but draw the right knee in. You can use the hands to hug the knee in. Yep, squeeze it straight in. And try and bring that left groin down towards the floor again. So again, you're not letting your tail curl up. You're trying to actually tilt your tail towards your feet. Good. And then hold behind that right thigh. Please extend the heel up towards the ceiling. Good. And press your thigh back against the hands again, like you are trying to bring your groins down towards the floor, like you're trying to arch your lower back just a little bit so that you keep as much of your sacrum rooted to the block as you can. Press your thigh into your hands strong. And then press up through the underside of the heel. Good. You got it. Yep. Keep pressing the thigh into the hands. Excellent, you guys. Good. One more breath. Reach up through the underside of the heel. One more time. Extend up like you're going to push your foot up to the ceiling. Nice. And then release the hands. Release that right foot down to the floor. Good. Again, feel both feet for a moment. Watch that as you're bringing the left knee in, that your right knee is in line with your right ankle, and that right foot is as best as you can tell facing straight ahead. So you're not letting the foot turn out or in. And then draw the left knee in towards your chest. Good. Squeeze it in with the hands. And then at the same time that you're squeezing in, try and draw your tailbone down towards the floor. So again, it's going to feel like you're arching your lower back a little bit. Good. Nice, nice, nice. And then hold behind the thigh. Please extend the left heel up towards the ceiling. Press the thigh into your hands. So your focus here is not trying to draw the thigh in towards the belly. The focus is to press the thigh into the hands and then reach up through the underside of the heel. And still try and find that tailbone tilting towards towards your toes, towards your feet, so that there's that openness through the lower back. Nice. Keep pressing the thigh against the hands. Excellent. Keep rooting down through your tail, down towards the floor, and extend up through the underside of your left heel. Nice. Excellent, you guys. And then bend that left knee back in towards your chest, please. Good. Release that foot down to the floor. Good. Again, planting both feet, press into your feet, root the arms into robot arms. You can push down through the upper arms and feel again the wideness of the chest. And then go ahead and lift your hips up off of the block. Pause there. So you're in a full bridge pose. So weight in your feet, balls of the feet as well. Nice. Full breath. Hug the inner knees. There you go. And then move the block out from underneath your sacrum and slowly release the hips back down to the floor. Good. Now stretch your arms out wide, letter T, palms facing down towards the floor. And here is, if you really, really wanted to, you could take a strap and just lay it across your mat, like the same direction that your arms are going, underneath the lower rib cage. So if you really wanted to, again, it's just for reference here. So it's not really a functional thing at the moment, but if you really want to do it, you can, just so that you have reference. So you want that strap, you should be laying on it, and it's going across your mat, same way your arms are going, and it should be just at that lower edge of your shoulder blade. So again, just so you have something as reference. But arms stretch wide. Good. So you need the strap to be underneath the back of your shoulder blades for this to work, for it to have any meaning. Lower down, lower shoulder blades. So like lower rib, lower scapula, bra strap line. There you go. Good. So palms face down. So you have something to, again, push down. So don't hold the strap if it's underneath you. It's just there as reference. You have something to push into. Turn the palms to face down, push down through the arms. Now take your legs up to the sky, both legs up. Good. So the idea here is for you to take that area of your lower rib cage, draw it down and in, hollow your belly, and push down into that space where if you have the strap, it's like you're literally trying to push down on the strap so that it can't move. If someone tried to pull it out from under you, they wouldn't be able to do it. The idea here is that you are engaging the abdominals to get in connection with the back. So hollow your low belly, press down through your lower rib cage, and spread wide across your middle back. Good. And push down through your hands as you do that. Nice. So the pushing down through the hands, again, stabilizing the shoulders, keeping the abdominals engaged. Reach up through the heels. Good. And now let your legs lean just a little bit to the right, only so far where you're not lifting your left rib cage up at all. So root down through your left arm, root down through your left lower rib cage as your legs fall slightly to the right. It's going to be subtle, not a big move. Good. And then come back to center, and then let your legs move to the left and root down through your right rib cage. So again, you're keeping that connection of the upper back to the floor, abdominally staying really engaged. And then come back to center, let your legs go to the right again. Good. Keeping that left side rooting down. Good. The rooting down is more important than where the legs go. Come back up to center. Let the legs go to the left. Root down through the right rib cage, pressing down through your hands, through the length of your arms. Come back to center one more time to the right. Yeah. And come back up to center and one more time to the left. Nice. And then back to center, bend the knees in towards your chest, squeeze them in for a moment, round and lift your forehead towards your knees. Good. So sometimes we play that game where I would have you doing that and actually walk around and tug on the strap to see if you were really rooting down enough to not let me move it. And then you would get really frustrated. Release the shoulders back to the floor, please. Good. Stretch the legs back up towards the sky. Again, root the arms, same way you just did. Turn the palms down, press down through the arms, stretch the legs up. And then bend your knees so that they are at 90 degrees. So your shins are parallel to the floor, your knees are in line with your hips. So for most of us, that means your knees have to move away from your belly a little bit more than you want them to. Lisa, that's perfect. Aparna, that's great. Mark, great. Good, everybody. Nice. So now with your knees bent, root down through those arms, start to let your knees drop to the right as though you're coming into a spinal twist, only as far as you can go, root down through that left arm and rib cage. And then abdominals to spine, come all the way back to center. Good. And then let your knees start to drop to the left, again, only to the point where, again, you can control that rooting down through the right rib cage and the right arm. And then come back to center. Good. Keep your knees at this same angle of bent, dip your toes towards the floor in front of you. Let your toes dip down to touch your mat straight in front of you, but keep your knees bent. Yep, you're dipping your toes down, angling down just to touch the floor, and then back up to center. So not to the right or the left. Try that again, just straight in front of you, like you're dipping your toes into a little bowl of water that's right in front of you. And then pull back up through the lower abdominals, root down through the middle back. Good, let your knees drop slightly to the right. Stretch out through that left arm and left rib cage. Come back to center. Good. Let your knees fall slightly to the left, rooting down through the right. Come back to center. Dip your toes straight forward. Again, keeping the knees bent. So it's not straightening the legs. It's just dipping the toes forward. Good. And then bring the knees back up to 90 degrees. Awesome. Draw the knees in towards your chest. Squeeze. Good. And then take your knees nice and wide, come into happy baby, reach for your ankles or the inner or outer edges of your feet. Stack your heels in line with your knees. Good. Nice, you guys. And again, root the lower spine down towards the floor. So again, we're starting this whole downward facing dog thing with waking up abdominals, waking up the shoulders, and stretching the lower back. Why? Because normally when you come into down dog, your whole awareness is focused on what hurts. And what normally bothers us in downward facing dog is, oh, my hamstrings, my calves, my shoulders, thinking about your arms, tops of the shoulders. Well, those places end up bearing a lot more of the stretch or a lot more of the sensation because our abdominals are not engaged, because our lower back is tight. This is what I mean about when things are routine, we don't really think about what's happening. How can I make downward facing dog feel like a place that I want to be forever? How do I make that experience spacious? Bring the feet together, please. Drop your heels towards your groin, but keep holding the ankles or the feet. So it's like you're in Baddha Konasana, but you're not letting your feet come to the floor. So your knees are still angled up towards your armpits. Yeah, you're good, Aparna. Just reach for the feet again. Yep, inside your knees, reach for your feet. Pull in. There you go. Good. Squeeze your knees towards each other just a little bit. As your knees squeeze in, draw the navel towards the spine, below the belly button towards the spine, and root your lower back down towards the floor. So those knees angle up, your tail angles down. You got it. Good. And then let go of the squeeze of the knees. Let them go wide. Draw the heels in towards the groin. Excellent. And then go ahead and bring the knees all the way together in towards the chest. Hug. Good. And then keep the right knee squeezed in, extend the left leg down towards the floor. Nice. And then come into a spinal twist. Bring the right knee across your body over to the left. Good. Stretching the right arm either out wide from the shoulder or up alongside the ear. Excellent. Good. And downward facing dog, again, is about finding the length of the whole back side of the body. So the legs and the back, and where they meet is the pelvis. So we can't just work just hamstrings. We can't just work just shoulders. We have to work the entire length of the back. Good. In your twist, draw your low below your belly button in towards your spine and push backwards as though you're going to push your butt into a wall that's behind you. So you're still in the twist, but you're pushing back and in. Good. Nice. And then slowly release, come all the way back to center, hug the right knee in towards your chest. Good. Lift your forehead up towards that knee, squeeze in. And as you're squeezing in, you're lifting your shoulders up, draw the shoulders wide away from your ears and lengthen your throat. So press through the top of your head, even though you're hollowing through your navel. Good. And then slowly release the shoulders, release the leg. Right leg extends out in front of you. Bring the left knee in towards your chest. Good. Come into your spinal twist, taking the left knee across the body over to the right. Left arm extends wide or up alongside the ear. Again, whatever placement makes the most sense for the front of your shoulder and your chest. Good. Nice. So Susan, we're just in the spinal twist. So bring your knee across. There you go. Excellent, you guys. So probably for most of you, most of us, downward facing dog is one of those first recognizable poses where we hear a lot of bizarre names in yoga and we have no idea what anyone's saying. But downward dog, we learn that one first and we remember it. Because we learn it first, it means that we really don't pay much attention to it at all. It's like the things that you've been doing that you learned intuitively as a child that you don't pay any attention to at all, how you walk, how you stand. Even your method of eating and speaking, I guarantee you don't pay attention to it until it's a problem. Draw your low navel in here, still in the twist, press back through your sacrum. So push your butt backwards as though there's a wall behind you. Yeah. And I'm not saying we have to look for things to be a problem, but it's just interesting how much we go about our lives not really present with what we're doing, with what's going on. Because something is so routine. Come all the way out of the twist, please. Coming back towards center, squeeze the left knee in towards your chest. Good. And then lift the shoulders again, bringing your forehead up like it's going to meet that knee. Good. Keep extending out through the right leg. So your right thigh is rooting down, hollowing the belly, and then draw your shoulders wide away from the ears. Press through the top of your head. So you're lengthening your upper back even as you're drawing the abdominals up and in. Nice. And then slowly release, please. Excellent. Good. Bring both knees in towards the chest just for a moment. Squeeze in. Nice. Lift your forehead up towards those knees again. Squeeze in. So you're hollowing the belly here. So you're going to stretch yourself out into some variation of like a low boat pose. So you're going to extend your legs and your arms at the same time. So the legs extend out, arms extend out, either reaching towards your feet or alongside your ears, either one, but you're at an angle. So drop those legs as low as you can towards the floor, extend the arms alongside your ears or reach for the feet, but extend out. Yep, your low boat pose. Good. And then squeeze everything in, come back into that little ball. Nice. And then same thing from that little ball, extend out. Again, your legs can be at whatever angle, but straighten the legs, Mark, if you can. Good. So they don't have to be super low. It's at whatever angle works for you. Press down through that middle rib cage, middle back, and then squeeze in towards that little ball again. Really nice. Good. Last time, extend out arms and legs. Again, having the arms up alongside your ears is a little bit more challenging for the upper abdominals. So if reaching towards the feet works better, do that. Nice, Lisa. Good. And then squeeze everything in. Excellent. Nice, you guys. And then go ahead and release, stretch the legs out, and then flip over onto your bellies, please. I know you're like, why the abdominal workout for downward facing dog? Why? Because what do you think supports your lower back? What? Yeah. Well, get your hips up. Exactly. So on your belly, please walk your hands back alongside your ribs for cobra. Good. Pressing down through the tops of the feet. Good. And I want you to really press down through the tops of the feet. Try and spread through your toes. So again, one of the smaller components of downward facing dog that we often don't pay attention to is the ankles, right? If your ankles are tight, downward facing dog, letting the heels come to the floor is very difficult. So you got to work the ankles in multiple directions. Press down through the tops of the feet. Good. As you press down through the tops of the feet, notice if your knees are hyperextending. The answer probably is yes. So try and feel as though you are pressing through your feet, and then that you are also trying to pull the tops of your thighs forward and up. So you should feel like your butt is popping up just a little bit instead of your knees. There you go. And then press down into the hands before you go anywhere. Just push into the hands as though you're intending to do a reverse push-up. So feel your low rib cage pull up away from the floor. Feel that hug of the upper arms towards the back. Good. And then go ahead and lift head, neck, and chest into cobra, putting that same pressure in your hands that you would if you were doing a reverse push-up. Good. Long throat. So again, lift the back of the throat, feel the top of the head, extending, rising. And from your lower rib cage, again, abdominals draw in. Feel as though you are hugging your lower spine here from your belly button. Good. And then release back down. Nice job. You're going to do the same thing again. So don't get excited that you're going somewhere new. Push down into the hands again, as though you are pretending you're going to do a reverse push-up. So push down strong. Feel your rib cage start to pull up away from the floor. And then feel the tops of your thighs, again, scooping forward and up towards the top of your mat. And then go ahead and lift head, neck, and chest, feeling your heart center extend towards your fingertips. So your sternum should feel like it pulls forward. And then press into the tops of the feet. Spread your toes. Nice. And then release back down to your belly. Good. You got one more. And again, if you're feeling a lot of restriction in the shoulders, move your hands wider. The automatic answer, move them wider away from your ribs. Good. And then push down, still feeling like you've got that subtle hugging in from the armpits are hugging in. Push down, pull up through your rib cage. Nice. And then begin to lift head, neck, and chest. So your sternum can rise higher than where your middle ribs are. And as your sternum comes up, you don't want your middle ribs to push down. You want everything to rise up together. So keep pulling your belly away from the floor. And then sternum goes forward, 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 up, 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 as your back muscles squeeze towards the middle of your spine. I know you think suddenly we're doing cobra instead of down dog. And then go ahead and release. Nice job. Press yourself up onto hands and knees. Come back to child's pose. And the sort of joke of asana practices that any pose that you choose, I want this pose to feel spacious. Well, what do you need? Well, you need every other pose. And then I pick a different pose. Well, how do I make this one spacious? Well, you need every other pose, right? So this is how that practice of becoming aware, that practice of becoming present makes us so in tune with how necessary everything is. I'm not talking about every thought or every passing, experience, but how necessary the components of the basic physical world are. Components of ourselves. You cannot have the experience of wholeness without every piece. Good. Press into your shins here. Again, spread through the tops of your feet. So here it might be a little easier to do, to press through your shins and spread through the tops of your feet. Spread your toes. Good. As you press into your shins, scoop into your low belly. And try and bring those hips down towards your heels just a little bit more. Nice. Good. And then go ahead and release that pressure, walking up onto hands and knees, please. Excellent. Good. So move yourself back. If you have a wall here, and I think most of you do, move yourself back so that you can tuck your toes and have your toes on the floor and your heels on the wall. Yeah. Good. Remember, I said downward facing dog is a transition pose, so it's very difficult to do any sort of reasonable yoga sequencing without doing downward facing dog. But do it this way, with your balls of the feet on the floor, heels on the wall. Start to press in. Sorry, so let's start it this way. Take your hands slightly wider than your shoulders. So where you normally place them for downward facing dog, I want you to move them just slightly wider than that. Good. and push down into your hands. Give a little bend to your elbows. Yep, bend your elbows, let them go wide. Good. So from hands and knees, Susan, not all the way on the floor. Yeah, there you go. So let the elbows go wide and then start to, again, hug the elbows so that they start to point towards the back of your mat, and keep the elbows bent, and now start to pull up through your rib cage. So take any arch out of your spine, pull up through your ribs, pull up through your ribs, pull up through your ribs. That's it, Aparna. And then spread your fingers wide. Feel all 10 knuckles, not fingers, but knuckles, backs of your knuckles. So the pads of the hand, of the palm pressing down. Good. Now keep your rib cage pulling in, up, up, up. Start to press your arms to straight by pushing down into your hands more and lifting your chest, but pulling your ribs up with you. Nice. Now keep that same energy of lift. Feel that lift draw all the way through your abdominals into the low part of your belly. And as you press your heels in towards the wall, lift your knees up off the floor and take your hips to the sky. From your abdominals, take your hips to the sky. Good. And keep pushing into your hands. Good. Take your hips as high as they will go. Yep. And keep pushing into your hands. Nice. Excellent. And then go ahead, release the knees back down towards the floor. Good. So you're either going to do this again, or if you are someone who's pretty comfortable with doing an L-shaped handstand, I'm going to give you the option to come into an L-shaped handstand. Why? Because that's basically downward facing dog turned slightly. So that is your option, right? If you are happy with this variation and this is where you want to be, then stay with this. So again, before you go anywhere, bend your elbows out wide. Good. Start to squeeze the elbows to point towards the back of your mat. So again, it's all muscular energy that you're squeezing the elbows to point back, and then pull your rib cage up and in. So it's going to feel like you're rounding up into your back rib cage. That's it, Aparna. Great. Good. And then push down into your hands. Feel all 10 fingers, all 10 backs of the knuckles, palms of the hands rooted. Good. And as you push down into your hands, feel your chest lifting, your ribs lifting to straighten the arms. And then from your abdominals, start to lift your hips up towards the sky. Good. And again, for those of you who want to go there, you can walk your hands back just a tiny step towards the wall for most of you, and then take one foot up to the wall and start to straighten the legs all the way into an L-shaped handstand. Hips come over the shoulders. Same energy in your abdominals. Do not let your spine come into that sway or that arch. You keep everything drawing up and in. Nice. Good. So Becca, if you wanted to, just push that foot a little lower down into the wall, lift the other foot as well. So you come into an L shape, an upside down L shape. There you go. Good. Hips all the way up over your shoulders. So feet walk down the wall just a little bit. That's it. Yep. And then slowly walk yourself down. If you are in the handstand, come on down to your knees. Sit back on your heels, Virasana. So if you need to move away from the wall so that you can be flat on the tops of your feet, do that. Scoot forward. Sit back on your heels or use a block between the feet, Virasana. Good. So some of you guys are going for an automatic like toe stretch, which is fine. We are going to go there. So, you know, if you're wondering, just give yourself a moment, stretch the right arm across your chest, wrap that left arm underneath. So you're stretching the arms. Right arm across the chest, left elbow hooks. Good. And as that elbow hooks, draw that right armpit back in space. So Aparna, Mark, you guys that are sitting on your toes like that, just untuck your toes for now, because we're going to come into that in a second. I don't want you to overdo it. Yeah. Good. And then stretch the arms out and wide, please. Nice. Feeling maybe a little exciting sensation at the front of your chest. Good. And then stretch the left arm across the chest, hooking the right arm underneath, letting your left arm move, your left armpit move wide. So it's like you're drawing this arm bone back. Instead of twisting with the stretch, you're staying really level and moving that left arm bone back. Good. Even here, sitting on your heels, can you draw the low abdominals in? Let the weight of your ribs move backwards in line with your hips. Good. And then stretch the arms all the way out. Excellent. So release the hands down to the floor, lift your butt up off of your heels. And here everyone's going to go for that toe stretch. So tuck your toes under. You got it. And then drop your hips back down onto your heels and take your shoulders on top of your hips. Yep. Remember I said your ankles are a key component of downward facing dog. Stretch the right arm to the sky. Bend the elbow, place the hand behind the heart. Left hand comes up just to hold the tip of the elbow. So you're just stretching the upper arm, noticing how much you are arching your back to try and take weight off of your feet. So instead, draw the low navel in, drop your weight onto those heels. Good. And again, if there's true pain there and it's not a position that your ankles can sustain, don't stay there. Give yourself a breath or two and then come out. Good. And then slowly release, lift the hips up off of the heels, stretch the arms up to the sky. Good. Then keep the toes tucked and come right back in. So drop the hips back down onto the heels, bend the left elbow, hand behind the heart, right hand comes to hold. Good. So it just gives you a brief reprieve of the sensation. Good. Soften your ribs, draw the low navel in, drop your hips towards your heels. Nice, you guys. And then slowly release the arms. Beautiful. Come up off of your toes, untuck your toes. Good. And then bring your hands to your hips. So come to that high kneeling position. And then from the high kneeling position, hands at your hips, just step your right foot forward in front of you. Good. And then take the hands to frame the front foot. So this is how you transition without using downward facing dog, right? So front foot is flat. Take your hands to frame the front foot. Yep. And then lift your back knee. Yep. You got it. Good. Step your left foot a little wider to the left, drop the heel to 45 degrees, and then take the arms up to warrior one. Shoulders and hips face the front of your mat. So warrior one, mark you're in warrior two. Yep. Good. Nice, you guys. So front knee is bent, arms, shoulders, and ribs, everything is facing the top of your mat. Good. So again, stretching for the ankle, right? Lifting that inner edge of your back foot. So straighten the front leg for a moment. So you take the weight of your pelvis back. You actually pay attention to that back leg. So with both legs straight, take more weight into your back foot. Feel the back thigh pulling up and back towards the wall behind you. And then at the same time, feel a lift through the front of your low belly. Good. So it's like you're trying to level your pelvis, lifting the pelvic bones, dropping your tail. Good. Now maintain all of that. Start to bend your right knee into the lunge, but keep pulling your left thigh backwards. Good. And press through your right heel, lift and spread the toes of the right foot. Yeah. So the ball of the foot is on the floor, just the toes lift. That's it. Let that front knee go all the way forward over the ankle. Yep. And then lift and spread your toes. You got it. Nice, Susan. Good. Back up. Good, Tina. Excellent, you guys. One last breath. Drop your pelvis deeper. There you go. Good. Then release the hands down to the floor, please. Spin your back heel up. Step back to plank pose. See how I did that? Yeah. Lower down to your belly, please. Good. Rise up, cobra. Point your toes back behind you. Lift head, neck, and chest. Good. And then press yourself back up onto hands and knees. Stretch your right arm out wide to the right. Right arm out wide to the right. Slide behind your left wrist. Right shoulder finds the floor. Turn your gaze. Left arm walks forward. Yes, I did consider for a pose like downward facing dog that I could have actually done it as a tutorial of doing the pose, you know, every other pose, right? You're just in down dog for most of the night. But again, there's something different in our mind that says, if I put all of these pieces together and then I experience the whole, right? I understand the whole, not just to be the components of all of the parts, but something unto itself. Press down through your shins. There you go. And then go ahead and unwind, come back up onto hands and knees. Good. And threading the needle the other way. So left arm comes out and wide. Then slide behind your right wrist, left shoulder finds the floor. And walk the right arm forward towards straight. And press down through the shins. And again, the endless combinations and variations of, you know, how do you prepare the lower back? How do you prepare the ankles? How do you prepare the shoulders? Yeah, you're going to see similarities in the things that, you know, make sense for the muscular action, but there's so many variations of how to get to downward facing dog. And that's the point, is that every downward facing dog is its own unique experience, even though you've done it a million times. And how you got there might have looked very similar, but it's a unique experience. So take it for what it is, become absorbed in what it is in the moment that you're in it. Not just for its component pieces, the things that bother you or the things that you're concentrating on, but the whole experience of it. Enjoy the sensation of your heels that don't touch the floor, but makes you extremely aware of your calves. Enjoy the sensation of stretch that spreads across the lower back, even if it's that semi-painful pleasure that is muscles stretching. Walk yourself all the way back up onto hands and knees. You could walk your hands back up onto your hips. So hands to your hips, and then step your left foot forward in front of you. Should be the second side, I hope. Good. And then let your hands frame the front foot. Yep, lift the back knee into a lunge, and then step your right foot wider to the right. Let your heel drop to 45 degrees, so your toes are angled. And then inhale both arms up into warrior one, bending the front knee. Good. And again, you want to feel as much of the wideness of your back foot as you can. So that inner ankle is lifting up, inner thigh lifts up and back. Good. Straighten the front thigh for a moment. So again, move all of your weight backwards, or redistribute your weight, I should say, so that your back leg is doing just as much of the weight bearing as the front leg. Feel that lift of the low belly where you're lifting your hip bones up off of your thigh because it tends to tilt forward. So lift up. Feel that sensation of really rooting into your back heel, lifting the inner edge of the ankle. So the baby toe side of your foot might feel like it gets a little bit more grounded. Good. And then stay this lifted. Pull the top of that left thigh back, inner thigh back and wide. And then keep that sensation, that energy. Bend the left knee. So your thighs are actually pulling away from each other in warrior one. As you come forward, you pull your back thigh back as much as your front thigh is moving forward. And make sure you're doing it from your thigh, not your knee. Good. And arms extend, reach up. Beautiful. If your arms are not directly alongside your ears, take your arms a little wider and maybe turn your palms forward so that you can really get that sensation of the arms straight out wide from the chest. Excellent. Lift and spread the toes of the front foot. Let your pelvis drop just a little bit more as you root into that front heel. Good. Nice, you guys. And then go ahead and release the hands, please. Spin the back heel up, step back, plank pose. Good. Lower down slow, coming through knees first if you need. Good. Rise up into cobra, pressing down through the tops of the feet, lift head, neck, and chest. Good. And then exhale, press back up to hands and knees. Good. Slide your right thigh in front of your left thigh, or left knee, sorry, right knee in front of left knee. Makes way more sense. Yep, so you cross the right knee all the way in front of the left. Separate your feet nice and wide, and then start to walk your hips back until you are sitting between your feet. So go Mukhasana. If that made no sense, then just sit down and cross your right knee on top of your left knee. Yeah, so you got to turn that other foot too, Lisa, so that their feet are going the opposite ways. So take the legs out. Yep. Yep. And then right knee goes all the way up. Yep. You got it. There you go. Good, you guys. If you can walk forward here, if walking forward or forward folding is not available, then just stay upright, but press your fingertips into the floor so you stay really lifted through your side waist and your chest. Good. Again, hip opening is very important for lower backs feeling spacious. So we can think about the long muscles of the spine connecting to the lower back. We can think about the legs, right? Hamstring stretching, connecting to the lower back. The hips also connect to the lower back. So what do you need to feel spacious in downward facing dog? You need all the other poses. What do you need to feel complete in this world? You need everything. To know every part of yourself. Relevant, important. And the more it seems like it is innate or ingrained or routine, the more our mind has become good at ignoring it. But do not take yourself for granted. Walk yourself all the way back up. Good. Unwind your legs, stretch your legs straight out in front of you. Inhale the arms up to the sky. Good, root down through your heels. You can use your strap here around the feet if you'd like, always an option. And then forward fold. So you're either holding the strap with the strap around the balls of the feet, or you're just reaching forward, finding your feet or your ankles or whatever you can find. Good. And then wherever you are, relax your shoulders away from your ears, or even better than relaxing is actually draw down. Have this feeling of drawing the armpits, of drawing the shoulder blades down towards the hips as you lift your chest at an angle up towards your toes. So lift your gaze slightly. So you're looking towards the tips of your toes, and then root down through your shoulder blades as you lift your chest up at an angle. So you're going to be maybe less close to your legs, but you get some of the curve to come out of your upper back. So try to find that angle where there's no curve in your upper back. Yep. Keep trying to find it. So the arms are engaging, the upper back is engaging. So there's no curve in the middle back. There might be still some in the lower back, but do your best to press back through your sit bones and extend. Nice. And then draw your navel up in towards your spine. Good. And right at that angle, if you're holding the strap, you're going to let it go. Stretch your arms up alongside your ears. Stay at that angle. So arms right up alongside your ears, all the way up. That's it. So now reach through the arms, extend back through your tail at the same time. Yeah, and press through your legs. A really weird middle of space downward dog. Good. Lift the arms alongside your ears at that angle. Excellent. And then release the hands all the way down. Let yourself fall into the forward fold. One more breath. And then walk yourself all the way up. Good. Come into Gomukhasana on the other side. So bending the knees, cross your left knee on top of your right. Yep. So the knees come stacked in line with each other. Left knee on top of right. Should be the second side. If it is not the second side, then put your legs in whatever the second side is for you. Again, you should be able to feel both sit bones. So if you need some sort of a prop, try and find a way where that prop can equalize the feeling of your sit bones. So you can feel both. Good. Feet are flexed. And then the option here is to fold forward if that's available. If it's not, stay upright, but press your fingertips into the floor. Keep your chest lifted. So that even just sitting here is that as you draw down through your groins, you push down into your seat and you lift up through your chest as you are still stretching your spine. You're still creating space in your hips, whether you realize it or not. That rooting down through your pelvis in a seated position like this is very powerful for opening up the lower back. Good. Nice, you guys. Keep your feet awake. Excellent. And then slowly release, unwind the legs, stretch the legs out in front of you. Inhale the arms up to the sky. Paschimottanasana, root down through your heels. Again, you can use your strap if you'd like around the feet. Bow forward. And again, if you're using the strap especially, I want you to focus on drawing your elbows back so that you are, again, getting the sensation of the elbows draw back, your chest lifts forward and up. So you want to think about your belly button coming to your thighs. And if your belly button can't reach your thighs, it does not matter where your head can go. So instead of thinking, can I get my head to my legs, be at whatever angle is necessary for you to imagine your belly button coming to your thighs. Or as one of my teachers used to say, like you're going to put your heart on your toes. Do Paschimottanasana like you're going to place your heart on your toes. And says, and he said, what he would say is that I guarantee your spine will get long enough for you to do it. Maybe easier for some of us who have short legs. One more breath. And then go ahead and walk yourself back up. Nice. So move your strap to the side, bend your knees, plant your feet in front of you. Yep. And then take your right ankle on top of your left thigh. So it's like you're in that position, almost like you were going to come into boat, stack your right ankle over your left thigh. So it's like you're in a seated figure four. So keep that left knee bent. Yep. Left knee bent, Becca. No. So bend both knees, plant both feet. Yep. There you go. You got it. Right ankle over left thigh. Excellent. And then hands are behind you, lifting your chest up. So you're moving towards, rolling towards the front edge of your sit bones. Good. So this is a hip stretch. right? Flex that right foot. And again, you're in control of how deep it goes. So if you want it to go deeper and you're sitting pretty much upright, squeeze that left foot a little closer in towards your sit bone. Good. Nice. And again, just playing with the angles, right? Because we can do hip stretches like pigeon, or we can do all sorts of, there's all sorts of variations for stretching the hips in this particular way. But this angle is one where, again, if you imagine flipping this upside down, that your butt being that pinnacle piece, or the pelvis being the pinnacle piece, your relation of your shoulders to your pelvis, even here, are you popping your ribs forward? Is your navel engaged? Right? If the answer is yes to the first one and no to the second one, welcome to 99% of everyone doing yoga. So become aware of drawing your rib cage in, right? Staying engaged. Good. And lifting your chest. Nice. And then slowly release this side, please. Plant that right foot down to the floor. Good. Give yourself a breath. Only one. And then take your left ankle on top of your right thigh, please. I know, don't convince yourself that there's any reason to wait. It's not going to get any easier. Good. Again, feel your groins rooting down to the floor here. So it's not just about how much you can push to try and get stretch in your outer hip or in your outer thigh. It's also, can you root down through your groins? Find how you can tilt your pelvis to get towards the front edge of your sit bones. And then see how you can draw the navel back, draw the rib cage back and in, support the spine as you lift your chest higher. And flex that left foot. Again, the point of this stretch is not only to get sensation on the hip and the thigh, it's to have the whole relationship where your shoulders are in relation to your pelvis is what's going to stretch your back. The angle of the legs just happens to be the way in which your thighs and hamstrings and hips and everything are going to experience stretch as well. So send your butt down and back, lift your chest, engage your ribs. Good. Gives you a new appreciation maybe for pigeon. And then slowly release the foot, please. Nice job. Just come into an easy cross-legged seat and then just walk yourself forward. So just cross the shins, cross the ankles, walk your hands forward, forward fold for a breath or two. Good. And then go ahead and walk your hands back in and roll forward onto hands and knees. And here we go. Hands underneath the shoulders. So again, notice, right? If your back feels like it's a little bit tight with your hands underneath your shoulders where you are, move your hands slightly wider. Good. If you feel like your shoulders typically are tight, move your hands slightly wider. Don't complain. Good. Bend the elbows out wide just a little bit, and then start to squeeze the elbows so they point towards the back of your mat. Root down through the backs of each of your knuckles. So all 10 pads of the fingers, pads of the palm, root down to the floor and feel almost like you can actually squeeze and cup your fingers towards the floor. And now push down into your hands as you lift your chest and draw your rib cage up and in. Toes are tucked. And then find where it feels like your abdominals are hollowing up and in from your belly. Lift your hips to the sky. And as your hips lift towards the sky, knees come up off the floor. Let your heels lengthen towards the floor as you continue to pull up through that low place of your belly. So it's like everything is hanging from that low belly across your thigh creases. Pull up, pull up, pull up. Squeeze your hands and your feet towards each other. Feel yourself pulling up through that tailbone even more. And then feel the tops of your thighs moving back, your inner thighs pulling towards the wall behind you, and feel your rib cage pulling towards the top of your mat. And then just lengthen down through your heels any amount. Same way you did in that first hamstring stretch. Lengthen through the backs of your ankles and press through the top of your head. And hang suspended. That's downward facing dog. Good. Bring yourself forward to plank pose. Armpits over your wrists. Notice if you had to slide your hands or your feet. Keep pressing down into the hands. Get that subtle bend to the elbows. Again, just a micro bend. Reset the arms, hug in, push down into your hands, pull up through your ribs. Let the arms come back to straight. Weight towards the thumb and first finger of the hands. And from here, again, from your inner thighs and your belly, pull up back into downward facing dog. As your hips rise up and the tops of the thighs move back, continue to feel yourself pressing down into the ridges of your knuckles, thumb and first finger. And then feel your neck extend even longer, press through the top of your head as your shoulders pull up towards your hips. And your heels, again, reach through the backside of your ankles. So it's not about finding the floor, it's just finding the length of your legs, and pull your tail up. Don't let your head drop because you're pushing through the top of your head, straight towards your thumbs. Nice. Breathe deep, navel drawn in, thighs and ribs pulling away from each other, equal. Really downward facing dog is a pose that begins with equality. And then as the spine gets longer and longer and longer, yeah, the head might drop towards the floor, but not because the back is arching. Last breath, pull up through your seat, press into your hands, into the balls of your feet, stretch through your ankles. And then release back to hands and knees, child's pose. Have to laugh that, you know, when I started my asana practice, I of course started in basically Ashtanga. Ashtanga was my thing. And in Ashtanga, downward facing dog is introduced as a resting pose. The pose you come to rest. And you're like, what? So you've just been doing, you know, a million sun salutes and you rest in downward facing dog, hold it for 5 full breaths. And that's the thing that we don't do, right? In most of our asana practices, we don't hold downward facing dog. We pass through it, or we think of it as that pose that you start with to get somewhere else. But what if it was the place to rest? What if it was the place to be? Walk your torso to the right, please, belly over the right thigh. So maybe that was the most awake downward facing dog you've done in a long time. Come back to center. Walk your belly to the left. And I have joked before and when this pose has come up, or maybe it was when I was teaching boat, is that downward facing dog and boat pose are essentially the same pose. Slightly different dynamics because one of them is oriented up towards the ceiling, the other one is oriented down towards the floor. You have to have the back, you have to have the ribs, you have to have the navel. You have to have openness through the lower back for it to work. Come back to center. Good. And walk yourself all the way back up and in. And then find your way coming back onto your backs, heads facing center of the room if you are in the room with me. However you like to come onto your back if you're at home. Good. Nice, you guys. Stretch the legs straight out in front of you. Walk your feet towards the bottom right-hand corner of your mat. Cross one ankle over the other. Wiggle your shoulders towards the upper right-hand corner, so same direction as your feet. Arms can come overhead. Hold opposite elbows or wrists. Good. And again, if having the arms up overhead does not feel comfortable or available, then move the arms into whatever position serves. The more you get to know downward facing dog, and because we do it so often, it really can be that experience of it's where you learn to recalibrate. So in downward facing dog, if you're paying attention, it's pretty easy to read what your body is doing. You can feel if there's more weight on one foot or one hand. You can feel where a shoulder is restricted or where a part of your back wants to spasm. You can feel which ankle has been injured in the past because it just is not as mobile. You can feel what's going on with your knees, your hips. Because it is a subtle inversion, you can also feel your inner equilibrium. Does downward facing dog make you queasy? Does it give you a headache? Does it put you out of breath? So the thing is, being present means to experience the whole range of sensation and information. Not to pick and choose. I'm only here until it doesn't feel good and then I move away. I'm only here because you told me to, and I don't really see any particular relevance to this pose. Start to let yourself unwind, stretching the arms and the legs out nice and wide like a big letter X. And then start to move yourself towards the other side. So walking your feet towards the bottom left-hand corner of your mat. For most of you, if you did it the other way before, that's fine. Just walk yourself the other direction. Wiggle your shoulders towards the upper left-hand corner, so same direction as the feet. And then again, either holding opposite wrists or elbows. Breathing through the side waist, allowing both sides of the pelvis, both sides of the ribs to try and find the floor. Again, because you are curved, one side will feel like it has to stretch a little more for that to happen. Our absorption, they say, when the mind is really open, as it does, it's always taking in, you know, all of the information that's there, but it's not necessarily in our conscious awareness that that information is relevant. So as we start to wake up to ourselves, it's the mind that's able to notice, right? The witness, we call it, that's able to notice when, oh, you're lashing out there. Oh, okay, you're protecting this vulnerability. Oh, okay, you're doing this. Oh, all right. You're looking for this kind of attention. Oh, this is what you really are wanting here. This is what you feel like you need. Whether it's accurate or not, doesn't matter. What matters is that we're able to actually see what's happening in a very routine way. We're able to see the patterns that have been running our life and the things that we've been missing. So we practice, this physical practice is to recalibrate, not just to notice, oh, I've got one hip that's chronically tighter than the other. Or all that sitting has made my shoulders act in this way. It's the first step. Then we become aware, increasingly aware of everything else. And to do it without judgment, that's the practice, right? I can see my thoughts, but every time that the pattern comes up and I'm like, that's probably not healthy. No judgment. Just begin to see yourself, is that is the practice, to see yourself. And become absorbed in not just yourself internally, but the space in which you reside. The spaciousness within which there is a you to see, a you to experience. Unwind yourself back to that big letter X, arms and legs. Pause for a breath, feeling the wideness of your ribs, of your back as you breathe. And then bend your knees and plant your feet as wide as your mat. You can let your arms go wherever they want to go. And just let your knees do that little windshield wiper action, dropping to the right and then to the left. And as the knees drop to the right, the next time, let them stay there. If you want to place your right ankle on top of your left knee for a little added stretch on that thigh, go for it. If that aggravates the hip or the knee or any other part, step the foot down, don't keep the weight there. Nice. And then slowly release, come back to center, planting both feet as wide as your mat. Let your knees drop to the left this time. Good. And again, optional is to take your left ankle on top of your right thigh. Or again, stay where you are. To really be present, we have to be conscious of, aware of, not just what bothers us. The space in which interactions are occurring, the space in which there is even the sensation of being bothered. Where is that? What is that? Capital T. Our breath is that distinction that says, well, the experience of that is happening in the world, but it's also happening inside of me. So that space that is outside of me, that is infinite, is the same as the space that is inside of me, that is infinite. So what is that? Capital T. What am I? Capital T. Or capital I, sorry. I am that infinite space in which interaction occurs. Unwind the legs, please. Hug your knees in towards your chest, squeezing the forehead up towards your knees. Curl into that little ball. Don't worry, it's not boat pose. And then slowly release and unwind, stretching the legs out in front of you, placing the legs and the arms consciously for Shavasana. Using whatever props that you'd like to support. Again, if the lower back is an area of challenge for you, a rolled blanket or a bolster underneath the knees can relieve that, help to relieve that. Similarly, if the neck or the upper shoulders are a challenge, having a small something underneath the back of the head so that the neck can be nice and long and the chin is level, helpful. And let yourself come back to your breath. As though you're breathing through your skin, not just through your lungs. And with the breath, you become aware of the space that is in between thinking, in between doing. And there's nothing to fill that space with, just be aware. Very gently bring the awareness back to your breath. It's wandered. Back to the you that is breathing. And as you're ready, begin to let the body stretch and move whatever ways serve it well. Bringing the knees in towards the chest, rolling to the right side. And give yourself a moment there before you begin to push the floor away. Come back to an upright seated position. Bringing the hands together in front of the heart center, palm to palm. So we think of downward facing dog as one of those simple, almost beginner poses, right? But it is potentially anything but beginner. Something that when we fully understand it, it's a very powerful pose. You have to be very strong to hold downward facing dog. And again, we neglect that when we just pass through and we think there's nothing else to do there except to pass through. Or we come to that moment where we feel like we're not strong enough and we run away and say, well, I'll just move on to the next thing that makes me feel a little bit more, a little bit better about myself. So downward facing dog is something that is foundational to an asana practice because it does require you to use the entire body in a very functional way. Every pose does. But because we do downward facing dog frequently, we think that it is somehow simpler. And it is when we understand it. And so our practice is to take everything as it comes, to value everything as it comes, whether it comes once a year or 20,000 times a day, is to take it with the same awareness, the same value, the same ability to immerse ourselves in that moment and only that moment. To be able to feel not just our sensation within the action, but to feel the space within which the action is occurring, the experience is occurring. That's how we start to open up to that infiniteness. So take your downward facing dogs, take every breath, take every sunrise, every sunset, every cup of tea or coffee, whatever it is you do every day. Take it as your opportunity to become absorbed again. Do not take yourself for granted. Don't take the life that you have for granted. Deep breath in for Om. Sliding the thumbs up to the space between the eyebrows. Namaste. Thank you guys so much. Have a great rest of your night, a great rest of your week until I see you again. Good fun, right? Have a good night.